Article 1. Reaffirming that the rights of women are based upon the category of sex. Women and girls are human beings, just like men and boys. We know that for some people, some people believe that women and girls are genders or gender identities or feelings or some kind of metaphysical soul or essence. And this declaration will not change their minds, but at least we deserve our right to state these facts. Any right assured to women and girls can only be exercised if we define what they are. If you cannot define something, you cannot protect it. And we all know what a woman is, an adult human female, because we all came from one. Defining women is the only way to implement policies to avoid sex-based discriminations. How do you find gender gap if we're not sure what do we mean by gender? How do you talk about reasons of male violence if we cannot truthfully say what a male is? How do you make policies to avoid teenage to get pregnant if we cannot freely talk about our biology anymore? Article 2. Reaffirming the nature of motherhood as an exclusively female status. Female erasure, besides the name of a great book, it's a process of erasure of women as a sex-based category, and thus mothers. If a country does not define in law that mothers are female human beings, then there is no way to protect their rights. Pregnant people is a misleading expression because not all people are able to get pregnant, only females. We also must keep in mind that in any country, most women are not aware of this gender jargon, and many are immigrants and didn't even learn the new language. According to the World Health Organization, 94% of all maternal deaths occur in low and middle-class and middle-income countries with severe educational problems and where unclear policies can kill. If a government intends to formulate and provide healthcare to mothers, it has to use these words. And these words must communicate their material reality. Mothers are female human beings. It has to have descriptions of female bodies in order to not mislead anyone. If health companies and public institutions and doctors and nurses and midwives and doulas want to organize seminars, webinars, and congresses, talks, classes, they have the right to say the truth. Pregnant women and not pregnant people, breastfeeding and not chest feeding, without being punished by so-called transphobia. We'd also like to point the rights of sons and daughters to know their biological parents. Article 3, reaffirming the rights of women and girls to physical and reproductive integrity. We have the right to protect our bodies and talk freely about our biology. We have the right to fight against forced sterilization and irreversible decisions fertility, especially about removing reproductive organs to protect the fertility of our girls and not to have our body exploited by men or women in so-called surrogacy motherhood. Women that choose being subjected to this industry are the ones with less choices. We are also aware that in many countries, surgeons perform hysterectomies in young women diagnosed with gender incongruence as soon they turn into 18. But recent studies show our brain gets fully matured around 25 years old. Sterilization is a serious decision that should be made only in adult life. Article 4. Reaffirming women's rights to freedom of opinion and freedom of expression. Freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 = 4. There is a reason why 1984 is one of the most beloved books of all time. Any policy, legislation, any future we want to build must Any future we want to build must begin with truth. We must make sure women can say what a woman is and what a man is in any situation and in everywhere. Verbally, by photos, images, songs, gestures. It's not acceptable being banned of a place because of a t-shirt with the phrase adult human female, as it happened in the UK in 2019. Women and girls fought and still fight for education. Just 100 years ago, very few of us were in universities, and there are still countries in which girls are not allowed to go to school. And now we're being silenced and even physically attacked. We've collected many stories of academics, both teachers and students, and hunted the platform. I had a speech at UFF, Brazilian University, about medicalization of kids, and trans rights activists canceled my speech there. Universities were supposed to be places of freedom and respect to dissent, but people are just frightened of being labeled as transphobic nowadays. We must protect women and women that are affiliated to political parties, school teachers, NGOs, and workers, and everyone who have, and we have several cases of persecution towards women in organizations that themselves build up, only because they refuse being redefined. We have the right to say the truth as we see it, to believe our own eyes and the reality of our bodies. We have the right to not label ourselves as cisgender, to not put pronouns in our bios on social medias, to reject the existence of gender identities, to avoid the term gender, or to define it as we wish, including as harmful stereotypes. We have the right to say since people cannot change sex, men cannot become women and women cannot become men. We have the right to say that a father cannot be a mother and vice versa, that a boy cannot be a girl and vice versa, and that lesbians are female homosexuals and thus a man cannot be a lesbian. We have the right to state that since every human being is male or female, including intersex people, we can't call them men or women, and not transgender or transvestites or transsexual or non-binary or queer or other dozen of gender identities we can't even memorize. We might, in many situations, as a courtesy, suspend our disbelief and go along with preferred pronouns or identities, but this must be kept as a courtesy because it's impossible to predict all the thousands of situations in which courtesy must give way to truth. Article 5, reaffirming women's rights to freedom and peaceful assembly and association. For the past years, women were put in position of organize or attend female-only assemblies, meetings, and all kinds of events in which men that claim they are women impose their presences. This goes against our rights of organization between ourselves and talking freely about our private issues and completely changed the policies we wanted for us. Every group has this right. Why not us? If a group of female students wants to start a girl group at school, why must they obey to accept a boy that claims he's a girl? Why? This is so wrong. This is so wrong with us. And I think that everybody in the world just know this is the truth. Article 6, reaffirming women's rights to political participation on the basis of sex. In order to raise the number of female politicians or to assure female politicians more voice and visibility, many countries started affirmative politics like quotas. The problem is male candidates that identified as women are using them, as we've seen in Brazil, where our court to election issues declared that the word sex means gender. Thus, men who claim they are women should have access of all these policies that we fought for. So instead of increasing the number of women in politics, we are raising the number of men who already are in politics. And this is the opposite of equality. Article 7. Reaffirm women's rights to the same opportunity as men to participate actively in sports and physical education. Sports are segregated by sex, biological sex, for reason of fairness and safeness. All of us know that men have advantages in strength and height and speed and other aspects, and it's not fair, not safe that they compete with women and girls. Even when they claim a female identity and make some body changes. Not only because they are not women and girls, but also because studies show that these advantages do not disappear and they do not even decrease in significant levels, these advantages. Watching male athletes surpassing women and girls in USA, UK, Australia, Brazil, Argentina is heartbreaking. And watching one of them, UFC fighter Fallon Fox, smashing a woman, Tamika Brandt, is infuriating. Every person in the world should watch this video because it's just disgusting and very sad. It's not fair, and every person in the world knows it's not fair. Some may lie, they think it's fair, but I don't really believe a person really thinks, at least on sports, I don't believe a person is really being sincere when they say that this is fair. If your country have bills to reinstate sports segregated by biological sex, please support them, regardless of who proposed it. And despite ideological and political differences, we all know this is the right thing to do, especially in countries with historical problems with poverty, because sports is one of the few opportunities for impoverished females to get a better life. We shouldn't deny them this chance. It goes against any notion of human dignity too, that in the end of each game, women and girls get forced to shower with biological men. Article 8. Reaffirming the need for the elimination of violence against women. How do we protect women and girls from violence if we cannot say what a woman or a girl is? How do we assure a safe refugee or a rape crisis? How do you do this to a woman and her children escaping from a domestic abuser? She and her kids have the right to a single-sex facility, and it's evil to make this woman sleep and shower with unknown male people. Countries should also formulate policies to prevent this to happen. Brazil is the 5th country in violent deaths of women. Statistics are fundamental to make policies that help us not to be killed. And policies must be made upon sex and not upon gender or gender identity. And finally, Article 9, reaffirming the need for the protection of the rights of the child. I'm a journalist and the spokesperson of No Corpo Certo, which is in English would mean in the right body. We are Brazilian, nor partisan, nor religious campaign about trans kids. We urge politicians to stop any kind of medical intervention in people under 18. In fact, minimum wage should be 25. I know 25 may seem like an utopia when doctors prescribe puberty blockers to 8-year-olds in general clinic and around the world. But only around this age, 25, our brains get fully mature to this kind of decisions. Puberty blockers, core sex hormones, and surgeries are prescribed to healthy kids here in Brazil and in many places in the world, based on criteria from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSMs. These criteria mention outdated stereotypes as toy and clothes and mislead parents with the use
of the word gender. Publicity blockers were not developed nor tested for psychological problems, and they are not FDA approved. In many countries, a more cautious approach was outlawed and conversion therapy, and in Brazil could make therapists lose their license. I'm always getting messages of therapists here, and they are frightened of what's happening to kids here. This is a very homophobic country, and parents are using this kind of medicine because they do not want a gay kid. A great barrier for parents here is the high cost of private practitioners, with contrast with the fact that the so-called affirmative mother is offered in public gender clinics in places like UK and Brazil, and sometimes by LGBTQIP NGOs. These people are also engaged in teaching unproven notions of gender identity in school, which are dangerous, especially for gender non-conforming kids. Regardless of your instance about adults making radical modification to look at the person of the opposite sex, kids are not adults. They cannot understand all the impacts of the medication of these bodies and reflects about pros and cons. We believe these interventions on kids' bodies will be seen in the future as a sad chapter of medicine, like other sad chapters like lobotomy and so many others, because medicine has committed so many mistakes, especially for kids and women. These are times when, as a character created by J.K. Rowling says, we must choose between what is easy and what is right. We know even with this declaration being signed by all the countries in the world, men will continue to bend to gender identity politics for fear, misinformation, economics advantages, personal gains, or other reasons. But people should have at least the right to choose what the right at all costs and have this choice protected by law. Thank you.
Ask everyone to know our website. No Corpo Certo is NOCORPO, and our YouTube channel. And I would really encourage everyone to know what your country is doing to kids, because what transgender medicine is doing to vulnerable kids is going to be marked on time. It's going to be memorized for the next decades, you know. And I'm sure everyone in the future is going to ask, what were people doing? What were feminists doing? Why doctors were in silence, or why psychologists didn't go to press? So it's quite, if you want to be seen in the future, including by yourself as a decent human being, I think it'd be important for you to know what they're doing to kids and how could we stop them. Thank you.